Hey, it's Chris and Gunpowder. If you haven't, you got to get tickets to the gun show, the BDW Gun Show in Resolve Technology, brought to you live by Volcom International. No, all joking aside, we stumbled across a article. This is something we've talked with clients about. Internet Explorer. It's no longer supported, but it's still baked into the operating system. Threat actors are now using a zero-day trick, an internet shortcut file to lure its victims. Before we even dive into this, I want to go into the edge settings and just mention this because Microsoft has made some, I think it's called IE mode. You can make sure so certain websites.
So while you're looking for that setting, Chris, so from time to time, we have clients that are working with banks and other places where they have to use old versions of Internet Explorer in order for their software to work. And it's quite antiquated, but because these banks are slow to bring their systems up to speed, or it could be some other vendor. And
UPS.
What is it?
UPS World Ship, I think. They released last time I talked to them.
So there's certain things that you have to do from time to time where it requires Internet Explorer. Most of them we haven't seen it as much lately, but in the last year or so, but previous to that, we'd see it a lot where there are too many old legacy systems and they'd be based on an Internet Explorer in order to get to a portal or something. And so we'd have to allow this setting. Maybe you can talk about this setting, Chris.
Yeah, so Internet Explorer here, all it is, it's a Chromium-based engine that you're familiar with, Chrome and Edge, from regular sites, but it uses this Trident MS HTML engine that's from Internet Explorer 11 for legacy sites. And when the site loads, it has this little in the top left, you can't really see this, but it has that E logo that you'd see, and that's how you know you're in compatibility mode. When a site loads in IE mode, it displays on the left there. You can click the logo. I don't know how much of it is actually Internet Explorer. I don't believe it's a known risk because there's a lot of things that we tried using this for some clients years ago, though, not so much anymore. And it didn't work in here. Like you can add in a specific website you want to run in compatibility mode, but it didn't work for them. The vendor would have to get involved and they say, no, you need to go into Windows features there and you need to allow Internet Explorer.
Yeah, typically, let me just add a little bit. Typically, you don't want to go that route unless you absolutely have to. You don't want to use that older looking browser in Internet Explorer from 5-10 years ago, right? Like that is a no unless it's absolutely necessary. Try to use the compatibility mode that Chris showed with the website first, because it's going to be safer than going directly to enabling that feature and basically turning back the clock to allow that browser. Then you're going to potentially open up your computer to vulnerabilities. But if you absolutely have to for a business case, you got to do it, right? But typically you don't want to. And here's something related to the shortcuts in the desktop and something to look out for that Chris wants to talk about.
So they even mention here that Checkpoint Research, that's the people that own Avanon spam filtering, what they're doing is their threat actors are using this trick to lure users in for remote code execution. They use a special Windows Internet shortcut files, the .url extension. You might not see that. You might just see a little icon that looks like a shortcut, like an arrow. It depends on Windows if you're showing file extensions at the end of file names. But essentially, it's the oldest trick in the book. They're taking books underscore these random characters .pdf .url. Now, you wouldn't see the .url if you had like file under Windows Explorer. You can hide or show file extensions. By default, I believe it's off, right? So they show you here. I actually created this on my desktop and I can show you. So I created a file here, invoices July 10th, 2024. All it is, I saved as on a web page. So if you open, this is an MS HTML file. It's just virustotal.com. I just literally went to the site, save as, and it's an Edge. Since Edge is my default browser, you see that. However, I actually created a shortcut. You can do new shortcut. And if you go into the properties here, it's not pointing to a URL. This is just the showcase that you can change the icon really. But that file I made, I can make it look like a PDF and see it's called invoices says July PDF. And if I open that, it's the same thing. But you could see how that could be used maliciously. But you see this little arrow there. I know I can't zoom in on my desktop. It's a higher resolution, but that little blue arrow pointing up, that's indicating it's a shortcut. But you can easily be fooled by some of this. I see people all the time get emails that are HTML attachments. We usually block it, but any new perspective on or client that we might pick up, I notice even I see some people, if we're training someone new, they see that edge icon, they think it's safe to open because of the icon. They don't, then it's technically an HTML file. I'd be very careful opening any HTML file or any internet shortcut. So the icons are misleading, essentially what I'm getting at. They can be misleading. They can make, like, all this is I downloaded, I literally downloaded this icon here that looks like the Edge PDF logo, because I know what an Edge PDF looks like. And I just went to a PNG to a icon converter because the icon file extension's ICO. I downloaded that file here, and yeah.
So I guess, Chris, a couple takeaways are, like you mentioned, be careful. Not everybody blocks HTML attachments or MH. The other version is an MHTML attachment, which is in this nudist article. Don't download those files if they come through email, because likely they're malicious, because that's what they want you to do. And then you save it to your desktop and then it shows up as a PDF like Chris is showing and that sort of thing. So don't download the HTML attachments or MHTML attachments, and be careful. Any new icons on your desktop, just be skeptical where they came from. You might have downloaded something by accident or whatever. And like Chris said, the name doesn't always match up with the icon, right? Like, it's not always gonna, if it's malicious, it could look like a PDF, right, as a shortcut, and then it goes to a web page, and then when you go to that web page, it downloads a malicious payload and infects your computer. So sometimes I see computers where they literally, there could be 50 shortcuts on the desktop and files and whatnot. Try to keep the desktop a little bit cleaner, then you'll be able to figure out if there's something weird on your computer or not, like that just showed up. And if you're not sure, you can always ask your people if that's a legit thing or not. But yeah, if you have your full desktop full of icons, it's going to be hard for you to tell and look for something like this, right?
Yeah, another thing I wanted to mention is I just showed it. I'm just going to zoom in on these icons. You see on that, I just changed the name of this file here, invoice.pdf.html. Now you see the .html because it is an HTML file, or you might see HTM, same concept, because I'm showing file extensions in Windows. As most IT computers, we like to see the files we're working with, whether it's a script, we know PowerShell is PS1, etc. But someone who's not, someone just a regular end user working in the finance department, they might just see invoice PDF in this Chrome logo and they're like, oh, it's just an invoice I'm expecting. Open it and it has a malicious payload Brian was talking about.
Yeah, that's a good point, because by default, you won't have file extensions turned on by default unless your IT department turned that on for whatever reason, but typically they don't. So yeah, that's a good point, Chris.
And lastly, they also show in the article here, they step through the process and you see this window, it goes, do you want to open this? And you can see right here from cmedia.cl, and then it goes to this CBM weird URL. But then there's a website this is an old school Internet Explorer security pop-up. Now, I believe you'd only see this on a device that has Internet Explorer enabled. I didn't read through the whole article here, but if you're opening a PDF or something that you think is legitimate, you shouldn't see a website wants to open content using this program on your computer, especially if you guys have nothing to do with Internet Explorer. That would be a call, and I wouldn't touch it. Call the help desk or whoever's in charge of IT over.
Right. And if you do happen to click it by mistake, still get in touch with your IT people just to verify that, say you see a weird website or something being downloaded, anything unusual like that, call your help desk. All right, Chris. Thanks.
Have a good one.
You too.